Have you ever found yourself standing in the wine aisle, maybe feeling a bit lost, wondering what everyone else is actually buying? Or maybe you're thinking about dinner, planning a get together, and you're just curious about, the bigger picture. What are people really drinking? Well, today's your lucky day. Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into the really fascinating world of wine consumption in Brazil. We're going beyond just the usual stuff about imports or fancy ads. We want to know what Brazilians really drink, why they choose it, and crucially, where they're buying their bottles. And we've got some great material for this, a fresh, exclusive presentation. It's from Conservitis and MDA Pesquisa with support from Sebre, the Brazilian support service for micro and small enterprises, all packed with insights from just this February 2025.
Yeah, and our goal today isn't just to throw numbers at you. It's really about giving you the key nuggets, the core insights, so you can properly understand the preferences, the behaviors of Brazilian alcohol consumers,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to wine. You should leave feeling genuinely well-informed about this unique and changing market.
Fantastic. So let's start at the beginning, the foundation. How did they actually put this research together? It's always good to know the method behind it all, right?
Absolutely, that's the best place to start. The methods is key. This was a pretty big survey, actually. They conducted 7,709 interviews, and they used a kind of mixed approach. About half, 950 interviews, came from an existing respondent panel, people who were already signed up. The rest were gathered through social media ads. So they were trying to get a really broad mix of people involved.
Okay, a wide net.
Exactly. And critically, they only included people who confirmed they actually consume alcoholic beverages. So the universe we're talking about here is Brazilians aged 18 or over who drink.
Right. And I noticed they didn't just take a random sample, did they? They made an effort to get specific groups in there, make it representative. How'd that work?
Yeah, that's what makes this study quite solid.
Yeah.
They did aim for a broad sample initially, but they also wanted to dig deeper into certain groups, specifically higher social classes and that key age group, 25 to 44 years old. But to make the final sample truly representative of all Brazilian alcohol consumers, they used a technique called ponderations, statistical weighting, basically.
Ponderations, okay.
Yeah, it means they adjusted the raw data. They lined it up with figures from a highly respected study, the CISA 2023 report, Álcool e saúde dos brasileiros, Panorama 2023. CISA is a major Brazilian center for info on health and alcohol. So these adjustments made sure the sample accurately reflected the real population in terms of gender, age, and family income.
Ah, okay. So, like, if they accidentally got too many women in the first round, they'd adjust it back.
Exactly that. For gender, the raw sample was a bit skewed towards women, 46.1% compared to the CISA profile of 41.1%. So they applied the weights, so the final data reflected the CISA numbers. 58.9% men and 41.1% women, which is the known profile of drinkers.
Makes sense.
And they did similar careful adjustments for age groups, making sure, say, the 18-24 bracket was represented correctly. Same for family income, ensuring all levels, from folks earning up to 2 minimum wages right up to those over 10 minimum wages, were represented in the right proportions.
This sounds really thorough, making sure the picture is accurate. What about how they collected it all? It was all online, wasn't it? Does that have any, potential quirks we should be aware of?
That's always a good question with online surveys. And yes, it was all done online, which is, super efficient, fast. But yeah, there can be a slight trade-off. Online methods sometimes mean the sample might lean a little towards people with higher education levels compared to the general population. So in this study, for instance, something like 40% had a university degree and another 5% had post-grad qualifications. That's likely higher than the overall Brazilian average.
Right.
But on the plus side, the regional spread was really good. It lined up very well with Brazil's national profile. So geographically, it was spot on. Southeast, northeast, south, all represented correctly.
Okay, so a really strong effort to get a clear picture, acknowledging maybe a slight lean towards higher education because of the online method. Good to know. So with that solid research background, let's zoom out a bit. Before we dive deep into wine itself, where does it actually sit in the grand scheme of things? What are Brazilians mostly drinking?
Right, the overall landscape. If you look at what people consumed in the last 3 months, one drink just completely dominates. Beer. It's huge. Beer accounts for a massive 75.6% of consumption.
75%?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's enormous. Then you have distilled spirits, think vodka, gin, whiskey, cachaça. They come in second, but way behind at 20.4%. And then we get to wines, sitting at 2.5%. and sparkling wines are even smaller, 1.1%.
Okay, so beer is just king. Absolutely king.
Undeniably. It really shows how embedded beer is in the culture.
That difference is really striking. It puts wine's market share in perspective, doesn't it? So why do people stick with their preferred drink? Is it mostly about price? Or what's easiest to grab?
Well, interestingly, price isn't the top driver, though it's definitely a factor. The number one reason people give for preferring a specific drink is simply custom or habit. That accounts for 53.3%.
Habit, just what they're used to.
Exactly. It's powerful. Right behind that is taste at 35.7%. Then you get price at 19% and ease of finding it at about 8%.
So for beer drinkers, it's mostly habit and taste driving that huge number.
Precisely. For beer, habit is 55%, taste is 38%. Those are the overwhelming reasons.
That's really interesting. It means changing drinking habits isn't just about putting a new bottle on the shelf, is it? It's about changing routines, ingrained preferences.
Absolutely. It's a much deeper challenge than just marketing or price.
Right. Okay, so now let's zoom in on the wine drinkers. The study made a distinction, didn't it, between regular wine consumers, people who bought wine recently, and those who drink it less often or not at all. For those who are buying and drinking wine, how often are they actually enjoying it?
Yeah, looking at those active wine consumers, most of them drink it pretty regularly. 40% drink wine weekly. Another 17% drink it monthly.
Weekly, okay? That's quite often.
It is. Then you have about 11% who drink it daily, and the rest are more occasional or rare consumers. And there's an interesting gender difference here. Women tend to drink wine weekly more often than men. It's 45% for women versus 37% for men.
Huh. Interesting.
And education plays a role, too. People with higher education levels, like postgraduates, they report higher weekly consumption, around 49%. University graduates are similar, about 47% weekly.
So it seems more integrated into the lifestyle for perhaps more educated women.
The data suggests that, yeah, it seems to fit into their regular routines more often.
Okay. And when these wine drinkers go to buy, are they stocking up, filling the cellar, or is it more of a, grab a bottle for tonight kind of thing?
It's definitely more the latter for the most part. It's generally not a big stock-up purchase. The vast majority, 61.4%, buy $2 or less each time they purchase wine.
2 or less, okay.
Yeah, about 23% buy 3 bottles. After that, the numbers drop off really quickly for larger quantities.
So grabbing a couple for the week, maybe for a specific meal or occasion, not loading up the car.
Exactly. That seems to be the typical pattern.
All right, so we know they like wine. They buy it fairly often, usually just a couple of bottles. But what kind of wine are we talking about? The study focused on reds, which I know are big in Brazil. What's actually in the glass?
This is probably one of the most distinctive findings about the Brazilian market. Across the board, the most consumed type of red wine is Tinto Suave. That's sweet red wine.
Sweet red, really?
Yes, by a significant margin. It counts for 63.8% of red wine consumption in the last 6 months. Tinto Seco, or dry red wine, is next at 50.1%. And then Vinho de Mesa, table wine, which can be either sweet or dry but is generally simpler, is at 28.4%.
Wow, 64% for sweet red. That's huge. That's really different from many other wine markets, isn't it?
It absolutely is. This preference for sweetness, particularly in red wine, is a defining characteristic here. It's not just a niche. It's the mainstream preference for a large segment.
So that Tinto Suave preference, is it across the board, or do certain groups drive that?
It gets even more interesting when you break it down. It's not uniform at all. Look at gender. Women show a much stronger preference for Tinto Suave. 71% of female wine drinkers consumed it. Men are more balanced. About 56% of men drank Tinto Suave, but 55% drank Tinto Seco. So much closer for men.
Okay, big difference between men and women there. What about age?
Age is another big factor. Younger consumers, the 18 to 24 group, really lean towards Tinto Suave, 76% preference.
76%, wow.
Yeah. But then look at the other end of the spectrum. Consumers aged 60 and over, they actually show a slight preference for Tinto Seco dry red. It's 55% for Seco versus 49% for Suave in that group.
Fascinating. So a real shift with age.
Definitely. And then you layer on education and income, and the pattern becomes even clearer. Higher education levels strongly correlate with preferring Tinto Seco. Postgraduates, 77% prefer dry reds. People earning over 10 minimum wages. 76% prefer dry reds.
Okay, so higher education, higher income leans dry.
Right. And conversely, those with lower education levels, say fundamental education, they show a 77% preference for Tinto Suave. Lower income earners? Same story. 66% prefer sweet reds.
So it really paints a picture. Younger consumers, women, those with lower income or education, tend towards the sweet red, while older, male, higher income, higher education consumers lean towards dry.
That's a very clear summary of the trend, yes. It shows just how segmented the preference is.
Amazing how diverse it is within one country. Okay, so they've decided on their wine, maybe Suave, maybe Secco. Where do they actually go to buy it? And what makes them choose, say, a supermarket over a fancy wine shop?
Right, the purchase channel.
Hmm.
And the why behind it. The study shows different channels really cater to different needs.
Right.
Let's take supermarkets. The big draws there are low price, 33%, cite that, and just the ease of purchase, convenience at 32%. Varieties also mentioned, 22%.
Okay, so supermarket equals easy and affordable. Makes sense.
Then you have specialized wine stores. People go there primarily for more options, better selection, that's 43%. And interestingly, because they trust the wine isn't fake, isn't falsified, that's 28%. Discounts matter too, 26%.
Ah, trust and selection at the specialist shop. Okay.
Moving online direct purchases, like from a winery or online retailer. Again, more options is key, 39%. But also, people perceive it as cheaper than other channels, 31%, and they find good discounts, 28%.
So online offers breadth and maybe better deals.
Seems that way. Then subscription clubs. Here, the motivation really shifts. It's heavily about discounts, 35%,
Wow.
and the appeal of discovering new wines, 32%. Trust pops up again too, 24%.
Discovery and deals for the clubs. Got it.
And finally, convenience stores. Bit of a surprise here, maybe. The top reasons cited were actually more options, 49%, and low prices, 46%, plus the obvious speed of getting the product, 26%.
More options and low prices at convenience stores. That is interesting. They must be stepping up their game.
It seems like they're meeting a specific need for quick, affordable, and perhaps increasingly diverse options.
It's really fascinating how these channels play different roles. Price and convenience drive some, while selection, trust, or discovery drive others. So beyond where they buy, what about the bottle itself? What factors really influence which wine they pick off the shelf or click online? Are they looking closely at the grape, the region, awards?
Yeah, what actually tips the scale at the point of decision?
Yeah.
The study measured the importance people place on different factors. Grape type, for example. It has an average importance score of 3.8, on a scale likely up to 5. But it's significantly more important for those with higher education, like postgrads, who rate it 4.2, and those with higher incomes, also 4.2.
So the more experienced or affluent drinkers care more about the grape.
That seems to be the case. Same pattern for origin or region. Average importance is 3.5. But again, postgrads, 4.2, higher income folks, 4.1, and older consumers, 60 plus 3.9, rated higher. They value knowing where it comes from.
Right, looking for that connection to place, maybe specific quality cues.
Exactly. What about awards and recognitions? Also averages 3.5 importance. But here, it's actually a bit more important for younger adults. The 25-34 group, 3.8. And again, postgrads, 3.8. And higher income earners, 3.8.
Huh. So younger adults might rely more on those medals and scores.
It could be a way they assess quality, yeah. And one more. Online recommendations also averages 3.5. And again, postgrads, 4.0, in that 25-34 age group, 3.9, give this more weight than average.
So digital influence is definitely there, especially for certain groups.
Absolutely. The influence of online reviews and recommendations is clearly growing.
So putting it all together, it seems like some factors, like grape variety and the specific region, are really valued by, let's say, more engaged, perhaps more affluent or educated consumers. They're digging deeper.
Precisely. It shows a kind of segmentation, doesn't it? Different levels of engagement with the details. So to wrap up, what we've seen is, well, while beer is still the undisputed king of Brazil, wine has carved out this really dedicated and likely growing audience. And it's an audience with very specific preferences. That strong leaning towards Tinta Suave, the sweet red, especially among women and younger people, is undeniable. And then you have the different reasons people choose where to buy: price, ease, trust, selection, discovery. It's just a really diverse and dynamic market landscape.
It really is. Brazil isn't just copying global trends. It has its own distinct wine culture emerging. So here's a final thought to chew on. Given these really clear preferences, particularly for sweeter reds, and how much things like price and convenience matter when buying, what does this mean for the future? Is the main opportunity for wine producers in Brazil just adapting more to that existing sweet preference? Or is there a bigger play in finding clever ways to maybe gently introduce the complexities of drier wines to that broader audience? How do you bridge that gap? Something to think about next time you're pondering that wine selection. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive today.